Good morning, ETH Prague. Good morning. Yoga this morning was decentralized. Thanks for coming. I know some of you are very warm now. This is a panel on the importance of communication in product building. Importance of communities in product building. Communication is what we're going to do today. Manu and Eylon, please take it from here.
There you go. So yeah, first of all, welcome guys. This was supposed to be a panel, but we think that it might be much better if we can all contribute, we can all express ourselves, and talk a little bit about the importance of community in building products. You know, usually the way that Web2 companies build products is not necessarily involving the community. The way that it's done is that you come with an idea, maybe you sketch it out, maybe you do some research and ask some people around, and then basically you publish it. And after that, you might do some A/B testing, and most of the decisions are not based on the community or how the community interacts with your product, but rather based on data analysis, as I said before, like A/B testing and so on. But can you really do that with a smart contract? Can you really do an A/B testing? I personally don't think so. When you launch a protocol, you don't really have the opportunity to launch it twice. Once you set up let's say, the initial parameters or something, you're basically determining how the future of the protocol is going to be like. I see that Adrian has some comment.
I saw Andre Cognac and you test in prod. That's all I wanted to say. Just gonna be a smart ass. I can just be a smart ass and without a mic.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll pass the microphone. I want to say that I think Vitalik talked about this yesterday in his talk, right? He was like, sort of talking about like corporations or stuff like that. They're like N or like 1 to N, so like one to many. And like in crypto, like the goal of community is like N to N. So like many people getting value, putting value in, and many people on the other side like getting that value. And I think this is like the really big difference in Web3. Like if in Web2, right, like Manu said, you build the product, you release it, you test it, and it's kind of like centralized, and you know you give it to maybe sometimes you ask for feedback, or you know you make a community forum for your Web2 thing. Like in what we're doing, it's like you really have to use your community like from the beginning. You really have to be with them. There needs to be sort of the feeling that everybody has. I call it shared ownership into whatever that is, and that's kind of like, you know, what we're talking about here a lot, right? It's like, you know, I can be an owner in the product that I help build. And so like these type of things, I think, you know, they're very important. And then now the question is like, how do we actually involve the community? Like, how do you get them to participate? And there are like, I guess, many tools, many practices, many ways to do that. But yeah, like we can maybe brainstorm some of the things.
Yeah, I think that one of... Okay. Another thing that I've been realizing is that, you know, a lot of people that are creating products in Web3, they think that by airdropping a token, people are going to care about their product. Meaning, by giving some free money away, people are going to come back and hopefully participate in governance, or hopefully find some issues within the community and contribute to the community. But that's not really how things work. People don't necessarily feel ownership over a protocol just by getting free money. Actually, I will argue that a lot of people they feel like they have actually how would I say it? They receive some money, and now they have like the opportunity to complain as much as they can, just because now they got money and now they feel that ownership.
Entitlement.
Yeah, the entitlement.
Entitlement,
Yeah, that's the word that I was looking for. They feel entitled just now because they receive that those tokens. And yeah, essentially, by receiving those tokens, that doesn't really mean that they are contributing and that they are part of the community and so on.
But today, like, you have to understand, like, doing an airdrop is a massive way to get a community. I'm biased between airdrops because, you know, on one hand, I've done a lot of airdrops, and on the other hand, I see the negative consequences of that. So, you know, for some people, getting $6 worth of a token is enough for them to spend a $4 gas transaction. Like, why are you selling $6 worth of your airdrop every week, every Monday? Save it up. Do it once a month. But some people actually need this $2 in their life, that it's warrant them wasting, you know, 60% of their airdrop to claim. And so,
but precisely,
what do we do now to, like, the airdrops were a very successful community building tool. You have communities with 20,000 people because of these airdrops.
But are they really community? Are they really, you know, are they really part of the community? Are they really contributing? Or are they just there expecting to receive and then extract from you and then basically just dump it on the market? And once the price goes down, they just complain about it. Are they really community?
I don't think so. I think that's definitely not what the community is.
That's the real question. So how do we create communities that they, you know, they help us shape the products that we're building? Because right now, the way that it's done is like, as I said, dropping a token, and then these people feel entitlement, and they're like always complaining about, oh, token price go down, blah, 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 right?
Of course, of course. The question I have is like, if you have a very strong community, is a token inevitable? Like, we're trying to put the token first and hopefully it gets the community. But if you have a really strong community, naturally we're going to build a product for us. Naturally, we're going to have some incentives to coordinate between us. And eventually that system of accounting will become a token. So I think we've approached it the wrong way. We've said, how about we just like give all of us 1,000 tokens, then we're going to be friends. No, no, no. I think it's the other way around. We build the community. We work out how we work towards as a community, then we work out what incentives, and then we become a token.
I think that the main issue is to identify what a community member is. And to me, a community member is those people that are giving more than what they're taking, or that they're contributing, you know, for the betterment of the group. And if you're acting on a very selfish way, then I wouldn't necessarily consider you that you care about the community. And I think that most of these airdrop hunters, or like all of these people that are complaining about the price of the token and so on, they're not necessarily there for the best interest of the community, but rather for the best interest of their pocket.
Yeah, I agree basically what was just said, that it's important to start with a good product, because a lot of people in Web3 has the idea that Web3 will solve their problem with the token, that we will first create the token and then we can avoid good values of the product or the product itself. But that's basically not the case. It's the nice example of it is probably Arbitrum. They attract the community before they airdrop the token, and it's nice to see that the people are kind of sticky and they stay with Arbitrum even after the airdrop. And for example, in Bankless, we don't have any token, and still we have very strong community, and it's basically about the values.
But I would argue that in Web3, you don't necessarily need to start with a product. You can start also with the community. You can start building basically values and start like gathering people and explaining what your ideas are and start getting feedback from the community and start implementing that feedback, and actually that will help you, that could potentially help you decide how you're going to release your product or what is it that you're actually building or for who you're building. You know, we usually, the way that we do it in Web3 is that we have this idea of this product that is going to be used by the community. I just release it and then see what happens. I don't necessarily think that that's the best way of doing it. I think that in the future, it's going to be way more valuable if you do the groundwork first, meaning you create a community, you work together with the community actually guides you in terms of what the parameters should be for your product, what the percentage, what percentage you should take in every transaction, and so on. The community might you know, guide you, might give you like the whole directions on what is it that they want and what is it that they're actually willing to pay for. So, you know, in the Web 2 type of world, we definitely have this concept of building, putting it out there, and, you know, break things fast. In Web 3, we cannot break things fast. Like, when we're talking about money, when we're talking about identity, when we're talking about social contracts, we cannot do the same. We cannot do it in the same way as we did it in Web 2, I believe.
We have testnets, so it's...
Yeah, but testnets is not the same as a real, let's say, mainnet application.
I just don't think it's something that really is linked closely to Web3. Like, I mean, this works with everything. It has always worked with everything. It's worked with Web 2, you know, products as well. So you have an idea, and you start building the community around the idea. You have some network, so you're starting from 1, then 3, 5, and you're kind of building the community about the idea, and then you start pushing the idea, and then, you know, you start developing, and the only difference, as you said, is that, you know, like, you can, you know, in Web 2 projects, you can secretly, like, build it, and then just release it, and it's like, you know, B2C or whatever. You have a product, you just, you know, wait for people to get it. But even in Web 2 nowadays, it's more about the community. It's more about, you know, building the relationship with your customers. Only in Web 3, you know, it's a different terminology, but essentially, you know, Web 2, Web 3, it kind of goes the same direction.
I want to disagree. I don't think what we have in Web 2, what they call community, is an actual community. In my mind, a community is a place where everybody is equal, right? Like, that's why, you know, when people say community building, to me, like, it's like there's an error in that phrase, community building, because, or I call it, like, I like to call it.
Find the people who are your community.
Yeah, I like to call it like a community facilitation rather than community building, because community building, like, the relationship is like inherently horizontal. I'm building, you are going to like work for me in a way. And the only way for a community to actually work is when everybody is equal. And I think like a very good example for this is like, you know, maybe the most successful online community, which is Wikipedia, right? Like, anyone can join, anyone can contribute, and no one is really earning like money from this. Maybe, you know, aside of like the Wikimedia Foundation, if you want, like, it's a rabbit hole and it's terrible, and yeah, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and it's not really being used for good, but it separates from Wikipedia, the website. Anyway, like, it has to be like what I call, or I mean, it's not me, it's like Alfred Adler, the psychologist, calls horizontal relationships, where everybody feels equal, the conversation is equal, and people, you know, feel shared responsibility and shared ownership. I want to talk about tokens, but it's like another big rabbit hole, but yeah, maybe later.
So personally, I don't think I entirely agree that a community necessitates everyone, you know, being equal. And it's a good thing that you mentioned the Wikipedia example. I'm actually giving a talk tomorrow on, you know, the Wikipedia example and what we can learn about communities there. Wikipedia is very hierarchical, actually, even within that, you know, self-regulating community. But I think that fundamentally a community requires, you know, group of people to have a shared identity that goes beyond products, that goes beyond tokens, you know, some shared values and, you know, principles that they can rely on. It's basically a group that people don't mind, you know, spending their time or money to join. Now, the thing with Web3 communities or so-called communities are that, you know, they're basically cults, but cults can be strong communities, right? But there's different kinds of cults. The kind of cults that Web3 are, they're more like those MLM scams, you know, pyramid schemes. They're all singularly focused on collecting around, you know, making money. That we are gonna pump and dump this token. We're all gonna get rich, which is fine. But does the single-minded pursuit of money, riches, actually lead to community building? I would argue no. That because, you know, and I'm no anthropologist or anything, but people say that, you know, basically that money becomes necessary where reputation and kinship does not work. So I'd say that, you know, money allows strangers to coordinate. Does it actually allow people, you know, who identify with each other to coordinate? I'm not sure about that.
But what if it's a community that actually has the values and actually the, let's say, the intention of making money or sharing alpha? You could argue that it is a community because they're sharing some, as you say, they have some kinship, they have some, let's say, sort of identity because they're part of a shitcoin DAO, for example. That's not a product, but it's a community.
It's a coordination mechanism, but you're not using that. We're specifically talking about making a product. And so we can have guilds and investment DAOs and all that sort of stuff. One of the questions that I wanted to know is more that you in Web3, it's a very specific example because we have proposals and DAOs and all that nonsense. And in Web 2, we have products. And so as a founder, if your product is not successful, you have two options: raise more money or pivot. And the question that I have in Web 3 is that, you know, at what point when you're building a community with the first 5 people and the first 100, and then we get to 1,000 and our product is not successful anymore? When we pivot, some of the community is not going to agree and some is going to agree. And so 60% do something and 60%. How do we align ourselves as a community to build products? And what happens when our products don't work? And what happens when a community shifts and not everyone agrees with the original vision? I think that is something that is affecting Web3's ability to scale. And it's a reason why we have all these dead shitcoin projects from 2017 that are unable to iterate and refine their product. And
I have a question. Would you consider the token a product? Because to me, a token is a product.
I would say, like, the example I'm most familiar with is sushi. So the sushi coin...
Let's go back to the one that we were saying before, like the one that we were saying. He was saying that if it's about money, it might not necessarily be a community. So I came back with the arguing, and I like that. I like what you say, but I could potentially argue that a community can be, let's say, a group of people that are actually making money. I can give the example of the shitcoin DAO where people put $100 in 2019. Each of them put $100 without having any form of identity, without anything. And then the identity formed after the fact that they put money together. And then the crazy part is that you might say that they don't have a product, but I would argue, yes, there is some form of product. And that's why I was asking, do you think that a token is a product? I personally think that it's a product. You can use the token as an incentive mechanism or as a way of growing your community or as a way of integrating or bringing more people in. So I definitely consider it as a product myself.
So I think what you're saying makes sense. And, you know, I could even like come up with another example. Let's assume we start a church and we, you know, have a commercial wing, you know, dedicated to making money so we can fund more infrastructure projects and all. So in that case, you know, we might have a community which is centered around making money for our other works. But I think that, you know, there's one more fundamental sort of issue at stake here, and that's what exactly is the purpose of what we call Web3 and all these decentralized mechanisms. It's arguable, and that's why it ties down back to you know, financialization. The reason is that, you know, the point of these systems, at least according to me, is to ensure coordination in a trustless manner, right? Trustless. That's why the financialization aspect and tokenization aspect is central to it. But if something is trustless, is it a community?
Well, that's what I was going to argue. I would disagree that in a place where there's no trust, there's no community.
Okay, that's a, pretty, yeah, go on, sorry. I'm just saying, that's a controversial statement right there. But.
Well, I mean, if there's no shared values, as you said before, there's no real community. If everyone is just pushing for their side, basically everyone is seeing everyone else as an adversary, not as someone to work with and collaborate and hopefully something bigger than themselves.
I want to say something. It might be like a little sideways, but a few weeks ago I was talking to someone. It was like in a group chat, and someone was saying that he saw the term degen, right, and he didn't know what it meant. And then he researches, and he was like, "Oh, it means decentral generation." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yes, decentral generation. This is we are the people who have entered." Listen, I've entered this space, and we understand that, it's better to trust the centralized system rather than centralized entities. And I'm like, holy shit. This is like the most wholesome thing I've seen in like the last year or two, like in this entire space. And I was like, it's amazing. And I think like, it's easy. I think like the space, it has like this mask where you see all the tokens going up and everybody's making money or losing money, and it's like very easy to like get carried on to that. But if you go beyond that, there's like so many interesting things happening, whether it's the technology or the belief that we will be able to take the systems of the old systems and make them new here, only better and more transparent, and like with all the values that we believe in. And yeah, like the making money is obviously in the forefront of this, but I think like if you're here, you came because, oh wow, I could make money, but then you're like, oh wow, like there's so much beyond this just money. There's so much beyond, there's like so much technology, there's so many things that are happening. And I don't know, are we the community of ETH Prague now? Are we a part of this? How are we contributing to this? And yeah, how will we contribute to like ETH Prague to be able to exist even next year? So yeah.
Well, I think we have to start. You were citing Adler earlier. We have to accept that there is some kind of human nature, and the human nature is inherently, it's all about me. I
will disagree with you.
It's selfish. It's pretty much.
We are
but we have the potential as human beings to go beyond that. But we have to try, and we have to like exert energy to not be selfish. But this is a struggle of humankind. So yes, we have this capability, but finding a community with inherently thinking that people will not be selfish is a flaw that you build inside of the community on the very start.
But I think that first of all, I will argue that humans are one of the most collaborative, let's say, species on Earth, and that's why we won as a species.
Wait, I want to say what you described is Moloch, right? It's like the selfishness and how everything sort of like falls apart is Moloch, right? And I actually think, and I gave like a yeah, I mean a part of like some of the characteristics of Moloch, and I think like community is the antidote to that. And it's kind of like there's this notion that entropy is happening all the time, right? The world goes from order to disorder, and that's kind of like a notion that is, people believe that it's true. So how come we've built buildings? And so like true nature, like if there was like no humans in it at all, it would be like entropy. Things would fall apart, like with no one constructing. But the ability for us to collaborate, to form communities, to form groups, to form, all these sort of like building structures, that's what's, that's kind of like the battle against Moloch, against entropy, against all these things. And like I agree with you that, we're inherently selfish, and that's kind of like, like Ayn Rand, right? I want to maximize my own profit and stuff like that, but in a setting of a community, if the community is good and successful, then you give up on your own immediate returns for something greater, for more return in the future. Yeah.
In an optimal world, I will argue that you'll do individually good, but also collectively good. So it shouldn't be only about the community or only about yourself, but it's just trying to find that balance, you know, that balance that is hard, that is definitely hard. But I don't think a community will do good if they're only focusing on the community and not on the individual. A community, for them to really do good and actually prosper, I think they definitely need to focus on the individual first and then the community as well.
Yeah, I think it's actually true, because Web3 or crypto itself is basically founded on the purpose that you can take care of yourself, you can be selfish, but it's actually good for the community as a whole. Because if, for example, in case of tokens, if you dump all of your tokens, you won't gain so much as if you hold tokens, I don't know, for a year, and the tokens would rise in price. The mechanism like that, it's actually how the nature works. I think that if the individual contribute to the community, it's actually good for himself or themselves, because they can gain some protection and stuff like that. So I think that we don't really need prioritize one of the things.
I want to bring it back to the product as well, because I think that's important. I think there's a distinction between what makes a community and what makes a Web3 product. So the vampire attack is a perfect example. You have one product and someone vampire attacked it, and now it's two products, because it's the same code. It's nothing different. It's just that one has this coin and one has that coin. And people have aligned themselves over a different community. And so when we do have two different products in that way, we have to ask, like, this new community, ignore the fact that there's 100,000 people in this Discord. You know, this community is supposed to be innovating and developing and making differentiating products from the people they just bought from. And so as a community that we are now, you know, contributing, the question is not necessarily about me or the community. It's more about, like, how are we adding value to the thing that we are trying to build. Like, there's a subtlety that comes from building a product as opposed to just having an investment DAO or making decisions. I think when we are trying to build a product, we all have to, like Manu said, bring more than what we take. And so if all we're taking is a financial extract, or like the dividends, we're not actually contributing to the product and we're not actually building it.
Yeah, and as I said before, I think that it's important that we also recognize what a product is, because sometimes we're also using products in order for us to create the community. And we create funnels for bringing community. And if those products also don't work, then the community as a product doesn't work either. And I'm saying this is because we're using Typeforms, we're using these type of things, we're using Notion, and we're using all of these different tools for assigning tasks and so on. And these products are part of the community. They make the community, and if they don't work, we don't have any community either. So first, I think we need to recognize that there are products that help us create a community. Then there are other products like tokens that might help us grow the community or incentivize the community to participate and so on. And there might be other products that the community also own, and the community might decide how those products, let's say, evolve, or how those products, let's say, charge you a fee, for example, or so on.
Yeah, I think I want to talk maybe like a little bit about tokens. I think we kind of touched on this earlier, and like you mentioned Arbitrum, and I think Arbitrum has done something interesting, right? They've had like arguably product market fit, right? You know, people are using the chain, it's working, and now they've airdrop tokens. I want to make the argument that, I don't know, maybe people at Arbitrum won't agree with me, but I think it was a legal arbitrage move, basically. They they saw what's happening in the US and they had to do this immediately. It's not because like they realized that, oh, wow, we are good enough and we can decentralize and all of that stuff. And I think the thing I want to get to is that we have standardized these sort of like 1 year lock and 4-year vesting schedule for tokens, which I think it's like one of the most destructive standards or practices that we've had in this ecosystem. And you know, I spend most of my time like these days like working and investing in startups. And like my take is to tell them, I know other VCs are going to tell you, you know, I'm not going to take more than 4 years of vesting, but I'm like, do 8 years. And you see, if you do 8 years of vesting, you'll see who are the VCs who are here for the short term and who are the VCs who are here for the long term. Yeah.
I will say that lately I found out that a couple of VCs, they don't even give a fuck about the vesting, because once the token is on perpetuals or options, they can already start shorting. And they actually, it's so weird because they're investing in you, but at the same time, they're betting against you because they're going to make more money betting against you. So the whole thing is already fucked.
Yeah,
you know?
It's important to say there are like a lot of hedge funds in the space who are masquerading themselves as venture funds.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And like I think, like generally the old profession of VC, like you would see some money coming back in like probably like the best outcome after 7 years, if there's like an exit or something like that. In another good case, 12 years, but in most cases you will never see any money.
But we need to bring it back to this community and the product. So how do the VCs fit in this community product building loop?
So this is such a difficult thing to sort of like figure out how VCs can participate. And I think, yeah, no, I don't think they can't. I think, you know, I can attest for myself, but you probably have to ask my portfolio companies that I work with. Like they'll say that I'm a part of their community, and I hope that I'm a part of their community. I don't know if my partners at the venture fund, you know, act the same as I do. I mean, they have different skill sets. I come from the world of community, and you know, I want to be a part of this.
But your personhood is contributing. The funds, your capital, isn't the thing that is contributing.
I don't know. Like, I think.
I will argue that, yes, capital is necessary in a world where we need to pay for shit. So yeah, they are contributing, but it's a different form of contribution. It's a contribution with an expectation of extraction at a multiple X, while a community member is contributing not necessarily even knowing what is it that they're going to receive in return. And not necessarily knowing, okay, I'm going to receive a 10x or 15x of what I contributed.
And the reason why we talk about contributing capital is because, to this gentleman's point, money gets involved when we cannot incentivize based on trust and reputation.
I mean, people need to eat, right? That's also a thing. Like you're building a product, I don't know, you have a family, you have a house, you wanna, you know, you wanna eat. So money has to come from somewhere to pay for salaries, and like. It's a very, like, I can tell you, like, yeah. Yeah, but the thing is,
like community building, like we're getting deeper into like, you know, when you come to a community, you should come with no expectation, and you should be somewhat self-sufficient to be able to contribute and add value. If it's a charity DAO, of course, we're here, I need to get some work, please, I need to feed myself. But like when you're honestly contributing to a community that before there's a product, we're just here to have a community, I think the money gets involved.
Yeah,
Too early for this.
2 points. Firstly, good point, because I'm in this discussion, like, this is all based on still, you know, parasitizing the like Web2 society, because you are getting somewhere the money so you can be active in some community. Yeah. So this all just doesn't work as a whole. But
well, the main thing is that we're still in a system that is enslaving human beings, and you know we need to work in order to put some food on the table and so on. So because we are still in this trap, you know, in this trap of trying to put some food in the table, then we need to take, you know.
Sorry, I had another point. I totally disagree. was the foundation of your ideas. I don't think working to create value is a trap. I think it's a blessing. But
I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Never said that.
But the other point was the VCs. Like, I'm part of a VC. I always also like invest as an angel, and that's what I try. I try to be part of the community before I do the investment. And even if we invest as a VC, like usually one of the team is part of the community, because you kind of share somehow the company, the ideas, the project. So.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. We have to be very strict with the schedule, so if we can wrap up in 2-3 minutes, then we have to prepare for the next one. Sorry. Yeah.
So, sorry. So unless like I feel like in Web3 we are very blessed because we made some money with our passions, but there are still like many other people who are not as blessed as us, or not where they were not so early as we were to the game, and then they don't have the opportunity to join us, but they have amazing ideas. They are so passionate about what they are doing. But for example, they are like working at the dry cleaners, and then they are coding on the side, or they are working as a, I don't know, shop assistant, but they are trying to, you know, like provide for their family and do this stuff. So.
But that's great. I mean, you can draw these people into your team and just make them, you know, part of the community and of actually the working team. So I think that's great, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's just the thing is that you have to like. Yeah,
sorry. We're gonna end the panel. I'm sorry that this is a very interesting conversation. We can keep going outside, but yeah, in general, like the conclusion that I can take from this conversation that we've been having here is that we need to differentiate what is a community member or what is a person that is there just to extract value from it and not actually contribute and generate more for the benefit of the community. And also that there are many different types of products. A token is a product on its own. And when we're creating products, definitely getting feedback from the community will benefit us and will help us. Why? Because basically the community is going to be giving you the ideas on how they want to interact with the product, what is it that they want to do with the product, and yeah, essentially you will be building something that people will care about because they're part of it in the whole creation process.
I want to say another sort of like thing here is that I think we're talking about community, but we also talk about money. And then the way these things, you know, interact with each other, it's like, I don't know, it's like a tornado and a volcano. Like it's kind of like it's a mess, right? Like, huh? Yeah, like it's, but you know, no, but they're somehow separate, but somehow like so intertwined. Like you're a part of the community. If someone else is earning money, I should also earn money, and it creates like weird dynamics. And I think this is like, yeah, maybe in the root of the discussion. How does money and community play together? And how does value that is being generated for a community flow back to its members? So yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us.